So it looks like his relevance cannot be underestimated, and he knows that. And he's using that to his advantage.
Of course, he knows that. He knows that so well, and he's using it to his advantage.
We'll get to Kalonzo Musyoka and his declaration later, and also hear what he said when he was launching his presidential bid that just came at the last day when the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission was expecting that presidential aspirants submit their running mates. And indeed, he found his own running mate, and of course, also did the needful. Let's now look at what has been the big news, even across the dailies this morning. It's all about the rise of the Iron Lady. We saw yesterday the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance presidential nominee Raila Odinga announces, the person who's going to deputize him, that is Martha Karua, the NARC Kenya party leader. How do you receive this news, Amondi?
I think that was great news, in as much as I think I will look at it from two perspectives. Per se, I expected the nominee to be Kalonzo Musyoka. Of course, given the fact that you're talking of a solid 2 million or thereabout votes that may flip based on, where he stands. So, and I ordinarily expected him to be the running mate. However, let me say that the choice of Martha Karua was really a game changer. A game changer in the sense that it was a gamble into the world of the unknown, in the sense that, this is the first time that we are having a female within the top structure, by that I mean within the presidency, as a potential deputy president. It also had the sense of bringing, excitement into the team, the Azimio team, because, we lacked something exciting, something. If you can compare the nomination of Gachagua, that is the DP William Ruto, the William Ruto running mate. Compared to the nomination of Martha Karua, the way it was received, both locally and internationally, you find there's a sense in which there was excitement behind the candidature. There's a sense in which, and really, it's not just for women, but even men. Even me, I have daughters, and I would really expect my daughters to rise to the, and Martha Karua then now becomes the representation of that hope. So that I think that to that extent it was a plus. What I don't know, and I want to believe that would be the case, is now how that would translate into votes within the context of the Kenyan political equation. But again, I also want to say that the rise of the Iron Lady brings in a very critical element in our politics. You'll agree with me. You remember the statement by the Internal Security CS, Achieng, the other day, about the nature of characters that we are electing into office. Our elections have turned into money machines. It's about buying people. It's about principles. So that for us as a country to realize a woman that has, stood for what he believes in. And one thing that everyone else, like her or hate her, but one thing we have to accept about Martha Karua is that she's a woman who has got a stand. She stands for justice. She has stood the cause. And you can always trust that if indeed, as a country, we want to lay the ghost of corruption, if indeed as a country we want our structures to work, then one of the persons who would best fit the position of running mate would be Martha Karua. She fits that. Let
me just ask you something concerning this announcement by Raila Odinga. Why do you think it stood out most? Is it because it was a woman, the slot was reserved for a woman, or is it because Kalonzo was sort of, for lack of a better term, edged out, or is it because it was Martha Karua, the person? What do you think stands out most among these three factors?
I think to me what stands out most is Martha Karua, the person. Yeah, because in Martha Karua, so much you see an institution in terms of consistency in terms of, they stand for justice, a just order in our society. I mean, look at our role in the course of the multi-party struggle in our land. Look at her role when she was a justice minister in terms of initiating reforms. Look at how she even left that office when she felt that, she differed in terms of principles with the system, as it were. And then look at Martha Karua even subsequently thereafter. I mean, because she felt she could not fit within the then major formations, she stood out in NAK Kenya. She was consistent on her principles. So that to that extent, I think yesterday was so much about the celebration of Martha Karua, the person, and the fact that, it would seem that in Kenya, all is not lost. I mean, it is still possible that those who stand for something, those who stand for justice, those who stand for an organized society would still have a place in the highest table. It's not all about the money that you have. It's not all about buying people. It's about, having a stand, and you get yourself at the table basically because of that. I think that is a Kenya that most of us crave for. That is a Kenya that most Kenyans will tell you they believe is not there. But the rise of Martha Karua somehow brings hope that, all is not lost.
All is not lost. I like the optimism. But, just looking at this whole, journey, how it has come along for women and leadership in this country, Honorable Martha Karua, this is not her first attempt or even her first opportunity to be able to be seen at that particular platform in that level. There was a time she vied for presidency. We've also seen the likes of Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu also going for that top seat despite the challenges that are cited for women to ascend to power. I mean, what will make this different, especially for Martha Karua?
I think this would definitely be different because unlike when she had a run at the presidency under the NAK Kenya ticket, and also unlike when Ngilu made an attempt under also NAK but NARC, I want to believe that Martha Karua comes in a system that has got that solid base that had all along lacked within those other previous formations, because she's joining the capital that has already been established by Raila Odinga. Of course, we have the strong political capital also being presented by the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta, so that to be in a position to be considered and nominated as a deputy president within such a formation, which has got a high likelihood of winning, I think that is a major plus. Because this is a serious stab at the presidency, because as it stands now, it's either Raila becomes the president or William Ruto. There are no two ways about it. So this is serious, unlike those other previous attempts.
Before her nomination, the conversation around the running mate, how to solve the running mate puzzle was revolving around the Mount Kenya question. There was a lot of talk about whoever wants to become president should actually consider that as a very big option that cannot be ignored. But do you think her nomination has changed the narrative around this particular conversation? I'm seeing the gender debate now coming back and picking up very strongly.
Not really. It's only that if you look at circumstances, I mean, in the choice of a running mate, so many factors were considered. Of course, the first and most critical one was the question of numbers. Of course, the question of region, which went hand in hand also with gender.
Yes.
And she also happens to come from within the Mount Kenya region. So that other than what I'd spoken of earlier, there's also the game of in terms of the region from where she comes and the rich vote basket. So that I think that has not changed. That is there. So that then the conversation now would be between her and Gachagua, who would be the best bet in terms of protecting the interest of the Mount Kenya region. And perhaps for those who may forget, if you can recall, was it, I think, 2007, yeah, after the controversial 2007 elections, one of the persons that stood out strong, actually she was referred to as the only man that remained standing in support and in, of the Mwai Kibaki regime, was none other than Martha Karua. So much so that the expectation was that she would be, the first deputy prime minister appointee then, in as much as, of course, she was overlooked by Kibaki in favor of Uhuru Kenyatta. So that I tend to think, in answer to your question, that the issue of regionalism still played a very critical role. It's only that in addition to that, there are also these other factors in terms of credentials of Martha Karua, the person, which we realized yesterday. I mean, even from the accolades that she got, not that just locally, but even internationally, that this is a lady of repute, a lady of standing, well recognized. Yeah, so, and you see that goes over and above the, our local politics and the regional way of thinking.
All right.
Yes.
Before we get to Kenya Kwanza, because I also want us to talk about Kenya Kwanza and the calculations they made and how they arrived at their choice. But I just want us to look at what this then means for women, because many have, given their sentiments following the nomination of Martha Karua, and from the women's side, they feel like this is a big win for them. Even Martha, during her acceptance speech, took time to thank Raila Odinga for taking that opportunity to reserve that slot for a woman and saying this is actually a very big step, a big milestone. How do you interpret this in the bigger picture?
Of course, like I've said, the nomination of Martha Karua was a plus. I mean, even if you do not, even if you do not agree with the choice, but I mean, in the end of the day, for every man, either you have a mother, you have a sister, or you have a daughter. Yeah. The fact that these persons within, your immediate family, the nomination of Martha Karua inspires hope in them. I mean, it gives our daughters hope. To that extent, even forgetting about all the other issues, that makes that nomination a plus. So that, and like I said, the question that then remains is, would that nomination influence our, ordinary thinking as Kenyans? Is it that because of this nomination, we shall therefore move out of our tribal cocoons and, look at things from that perspective? Would women, for example, as a matter of fact, just come out to vote for the Azimio ticket simply by virtue of the fact that their vote would ensure, Kenyans experience a historic moment where for the first time we have a female deputy president? Would the women folk move along that direction? I think those are the questions that remain to be asked. We saw yesterday the excitement that was there throughout the country. I want to believe the same would ultimately translate into votes. Of course, if they do, then the Kenya Kwanza gentlemen and women are in for a rude shock if what I saw yesterday translates into votes. And I'm using the words if, because Kenyans are generally interesting characters. I mean, you might find that in the end of the day, we again recede back to our usual cocoons.
Yeah, true. Yes. If, and of course, the politics in this country keep surprising us. Sure. Today you think you know this, the next morning something else happens and the whole conversation around the country changes. But I want us to talk about the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. But before that, let me just take you through who this lady, Martha Karua, is. She's the party leader of NARC Kenya. Kenya. She lost the Kirinyaga gubernatorial race in 2017 after garnering 122,091 votes against Anne Waiguru, who got 161,373 votes. She has contested for president under the NARC Kenya party in 2013. She has served as Member of Parliament for Gishugu constituency from 1992 to the year 2013. She has served also as the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs from 2005 to 2009, Minister of Water and Irrigation from 2003 to 2005, and has been awarded by FIDA for advancing women's rights in 1991. And she has been recognized by Human Rights Watch as also a human rights monitor. This was done in 1991. And she started Martha Karua and Co-Advocates in 1987, and also served as a magistrate in Makadara, Nakuru, and Kibera. That is between 1981 and 1997. So I want us to shift gears and talk about Kenya Kwanza and who they settled for as the running mate for their presidential flag bearer, that is the Deputy President William Ruto. And it is Rigathi Gachagua, the Member of Parliament for Mathira constituency, a position he has served since 2017. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Literature from the University of Nairobi. Rigathi Gachagua has also served as a personal assistant to Uhuru Kenyatta, who was then Minister of Local Government, and he did this between 2001 to 2006. He has also served as a district officer in Laikipia District, a district officer also in Kakamega District, and he was also a personal assistant to the head of public service in 1991 to 1993. Gachagua also served as an assistant secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs and National Heritage, and was trained in 1990 as a paramilitary at the administration. Yeah, thank you so much. So I just want us to talk about this particular gentleman. I've taken you through his profile, and this is the man that Kenya Kwanza, settled for as the running mate for the DP William Ruto. First of all, I just want to get your thoughts about this decision.
I think in terms of the Kenya Kwanza nominee candidate, of course, we are aware of the shenanigans that surrounded the nomination. The fact that most members of parliament and opinion polls within the, that formation had settled on Professor Kithure Kindiki, who I must confess, because, he's someone who lectured me at Moi University, and I can say without any shadow of doubt, that's one person who is a performer. That's one person who means his word. That's one person who is forthright. He knows if he believes in something, he'll do it and he will deliver. So that personally, I was disappointed. So
you're saying this based on your personal interactions?
Yes, that is personal before I go to the nominee. Yes,
okay.
Yes, exactly. Because I know he fell victim of, what we just spoke of in reference to the Azimio ticket, the fact that one of the major considerations, given that this is already anticipated to be a very close election, was the question of numbers, so that it turned into who would best deliver, the highest number of votes. And I think in the estimation of the deputy president, the best person for that was, the grassroots organizer, who is Nderitu Gachagua, not Professor Kindiki. On Gachagua, the MP for Mathira, I think from what we've seen so far, the gentleman is a grassroots organizer. I want to believe that from what we've seen, it's to him that what is called the hustler narrative has, been propagated so much within the central region. I want to believe, again, from what I've seen, that he's someone who seems to understand the grassroots, to understand the base. He knows, the language of wale watu wa chini, which at times it's very critical in terms of mobilization. And elections are so much about mobilization. Of course, it's also said there was the question of financial wherewithal and capacity in terms of funding a campaign. I remember I said I said in respect of Martha that one of the hopes that his candidature gives is that you can at times get something simply because of the principles that you stand off. However, for this candidate, I think that was one of the major considerations, the fact that he has that financial muscle, so that given these considerations, and of course also let us not forget where he comes from. He comes from the Mount Kenya region, and not just that, you're talking of Nyeri, you're talking of the what they call the fulcrum of the Mau Mau, if you remember our history. So that I think those are the considerations that the deputy president really looked into, and especially bearing in mind that he's going into this election as an anti-establishment candidate. Perhaps he felt that it would be a very big gamble for him to move with, a candidate who is not from the core of Mount Kenya. Who is specifically not from within the Kikuyu community. And so, it would have been very easy for him to face the backlash in terms of, in politics. Had he gone for my good professor, then the story would have changed.
So it's sort of like you preach water and
exactly
you drink wine.
Yes.
All right. There was that narrative that they both shared concerning these are people who came from humble beginnings, who had, nothing. They rose from nothing to something, both the DP and Rigathi Gachagua. And in fact, in his acceptance speech, Rigathi Gachagua made that very categorical, that this is actually a true description of what hustler means. Do you think it's a sell for this ticket?
I really do not know now, especially now given the fact that we have Martha Karua on the other side of Azimio, because unlike, Martha Karua is also not a person that you would say hails from what they describe as a dynasty. Martha Karua comes from a humble background. Martha Karua is someone who has worked her way. But again now, contrary to them, Martha Karua is, one person who has stood on the right side of history. Is someone who is not tainted with corruption allegations. I think that is the catch. That's what would be the catch for Gachagua, in as much as he says, and maybe rightfully so, that, look, those are, one is presumed innocent until found guilty. And that again, until he exhausts all the appellate processes, nothing stops him from running. But it does not save him from the fact that, there are those questions that, linger around him. So that looking at it vis-a-vis the counter, who is Martha Karua, and who also happens to, come from within the same, what you describe, a hustler background. And thirdly, who has also had opportunity, and can I say serious opportunity in government, as a Minister of Justice, Constitutional Affairs, as a Minister for Water, if I can recall, but was never tainted at all. I've never heard of any scandal being mentioned or attached to Martha Karua. So, for serious Kenyans, I don't know how that narrative of hustler would sell for Gachagua vis-a-vis Martha Karua. If it was another candidate, yes, but not the candidate that he is being compared to, who is Martha Karua.
There was also the talk about when we're making this choice of a running mate. Over time, we have observed the trend that has been, settling for somebody who has some sort of influence in national politics, somebody who has the potential to bring numbers on the table, somebody you can see the role they have played from one point to another nationally, moving nationally in the political space. But with Rigathi, this is seems to be like a different direction that the DP decided to take. I don't know what you think motivated him to go that direction.
I think with Rigathi, in as much as he may not have played a major role in terms of the national politics, but if you look at it in terms of the dynamics of central province and his role in terms of selling the hustler narrative, where he took charge of the Tanga wing and just propagating.
So they banked more on the grassroots mobilization.
Exactly, because remember, for the DP's presidential bid is pegged so much on the Mount Kenya vote, such that if the DP does not have the Mount Kenya vote, he is done. So that if this is the grassroots organizer, this is the person that those fellas are listening to, then that is the person that the DP would go for, because his presidency is pegged so much on the Mount Kenya vote.
All right, so this decision led to yet another one by Tharaka Nithi Senator Professor Kithure Kindiki. He says, time out. It's time for me now to not necessarily hang his boots, because we do not know what will happen in the coming months or years. But what he said yesterday is that he's taking time off active politics after the August general election. And of course, what he said, that between now and August, what he's going to do is to really focus his energy in helping in the campaign for Kenya Kwanza Alliance, and congratulated Ruto's nominee Rigathi Gachagua. It was a presser that came in yesterday. But what do you think of his decision, though, of first of all saying that he's going to take time off active politics, young and vibrant as he is, and having been listed among the favorites who are potential to take up that number 2 slot, means he has a lot of muscle, politically speaking, and of course also saying that he's not interested in any appointments even after the August polls. What are you reading from this? What are we missing?
I think, like I said, for some of us who understand Prof and whom he lectured, they know him as a person who is forthright, a person who believes in systems, a person who follows through. So that I'm trying to imagine, here he is, he's being proposed to be the deputy president, and then the party puts in place a mechanism of evaluating the candidates. There is the opinion polls. All the opinion polls place him way ahead of the other candidates. The same decision is subjected to a vote by members of parliament. Again, across the board, I mean, they all, by far, he weighs ahead of all of them. And then comes the shocker. He is not the candidate. I mean,
come at the hour.
Yes. So knowing Prof and how he does his things, I think he just does not understand how these systems operate. I mean, it's not his way of doing things.
All right, just hold that thought. I'd like to hear more about it, but I want us to hear it from the horse's mouth. And I just want us to play something that what the Tharaka Nithi Senator Kindiki said yesterday when he was making his announcement of his next move after he missed that number 2 slot under the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. Let's listen in.
When I left the academia and when I left my profession some 10 years ago, I knew I would have had an illustrious career as a technocrat and as an appointed official. That was a decision I had made, and I had been pushed by the desire to serve my country and apply my talents from the platform of elective politics. So I want to confirm that is my next step for those who have been asking what I'm planning, and I'm sorry if I've disappointed anybody.
Thank you, Asante.
All right, so that is what he said yesterday, sort of, because people have been asking, even on the day when Kenya Kwanza was unveiling their running mate, he was missing in action. And guys have been asking, where is the senator? Where is the good professor? And yesterday he decided to just come and answer all those curious questions and to explain what he has decided and his next move. And he said he's going to take time off politics and he's not interested in any nomination, any appointments in government. I mean, beyond what we had, is there anything else that you read from his statement and even his decision to come out and alone to say that? Does it speak something else?
So I think some of these positions, and especially when you reached that level of politics, by the time you reach that level, it calls for a lot of, there's a lot of sacrifice. There are so many people who are behind you. There are so many people who are pushing you and they believe in you. Don't forget there's also your family in it. I mean, a lot of people invest in it, so that when that mission crumbles in your face, and especially where in all likelihood you are the one, and given all the available parameters set by your political party which you served so faithfully, you are the one, and suddenly, I mean, it crumbles, it can really crush someone. And I believe one really needs to take time off just to cool off and get back to norm and resume. Yeah, so I think I
so
understand.
he needed the break.
I think he just needs he needs that break.
Looks like politics needs a lot of calculation, because this was somebody who, according to what we've heard from his own backyard, was being fronted to take up the position of governor. Later the grievances that were coming on the ground was like, we wanted to give him governor, but you asked us not to, that he can serve at a better position nationally, and we gave him to you. Now, bring him back so that we can be able to give him that position of governor, and even to go to the Kenya Kwanza alliance and be fronted among the top candidates who are being proposed to be the flag bearers running mate. That means the senator really has something. He's goose cooked, politically speaking, now.
For the senator, I don't think his goose is cooked, politically speaking. In fact, I would ask him just to read the script of Martha Karua. Life is about, and he's the one who taught us some of these things. I mean, life is about consistency. Just do the right thing. I mean, just stand there. I only wish he still had the opportunity to serve his people as governor, because I know they would have elected him. Yeah. So I mean, that's the only gray area, because he had an opportunity to serve as governor, and I believe he would have been one of the best. The prof that I know, I believe that county would have been, beacon in terms of how county governments should be run. Unfortunately, because of the promise that he was given by the deputy president, that is now forgone. But what I would say is, let him stay the course. The likes of Martha Karua were there. I mean, Martha Karua was written off after she fell out with Kibaki. Yeah, she tried the presidency through NAC. She failed. In fact, for starters, she was not amongst the major candidates. She belonged under the structure of others. Yeah, she tried the gubernatorial seat. Of course, Anne Waiguru came from nowhere. She lost to her. So these things happen. What is important is stick to your principles. And I know Prof is a good man. I mean, in one way or another, he'll still come.
Do you think he should lay low?
Maybe just for some time.
Advise him as a friend. Do you think he should lay low?
I think just for some time, just cool off.
Yeah.
Because Prof is someone who, again, I mean, he can be appointed, if I could use that word, by any administration, be it under Raila, be it under Kenya Kwanza, if William Ruto wins, or even Raila Odinga. It's possible. Yeah.
All right, so let's look at somebody who couldn't take the decision by their own coalition. That is none other than the Wiper Party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, who, upon realizing that he was not the man to take up the number 2 slot to deputize Raila Odinga, decided that he can do this alone and he can actually go all the way. Let's listen into what he said as he was launching his last-minute presidential bid. All right, we'll be getting to hear what Kalonzo Musyoka said as he was launching his last-minute presidential bid in just a bit. But of course, just earlier on, we were having this conversation, Amondi, and you were saying that this caught you by surprise. This is something that you never saw coming. Tell us a bit about why it surprised you. Why did it shock you? This is somebody who has always expressed interest of becoming the country's top boss.
You see, it's clear to everyone that so far, like they say, farasi ni wawili. Yeah?
I want you to hold it. I just want us to hear what Kalonzo had to say, and then we can dissect it. Let's listen in.
Naming my running mate. In fact, from Mombasa, he came home to try to convince me to accept his choice of our sister, Mother Karua. We did not agree, and I said, let's sleep over it. We slept over it, and last night we are at it. We did not again agree, so this is why we agreed that he will name Mother, and I will name my running mate, and I wish him and his running mate, our sister Mother Karua, well. But I also made it very clear that if I know my country, if I know our country well, that decision will meet with overwhelming opposition. And therefore, we have agreed to go our separate ways and compare notes as we move.
I think let me start there. Why are you laughing about this?
Well, the aspect of comparing notes as we move ahead. But I think what Kalonzo Musyoka is saying is that, of course, he is aware that he has the hold of the Kamba vote. He also knows that, courtesy of such a move, there's a sense in which he ignites his base with a message that, we have been betrayed or something like that. And he knows that if he does that, and he can hold that base so that he is the determinant of where they vote. And we are talking of close to 2 million votes. And in a close race such as this, where it is clear no one will have 50+1, then you have to come back and look for Kalonzo Musyoka. So I think Kalonzo is basically, he's basically playing the kingmaker. That's what he wants. And it's not the first time. He did it in 2007. When he was underrated, he only had about 800,000 votes, but we saw the result. He used to say kupitia katikati. He did, and he became the vice president. So it could be... All right.
I'll come back to you. Let me just cut you short. Sorry for that. Let's just quickly cross over to Kisumu County for the Afri-Cities Summit. The head of state has just arrived. Let's listen into what is happening before we come back and continue.